in trying to close this talk on negotiation, we're going to look at 10 tips for successful negotiation. We looked at the skills. We're going to look at 10 tips here, for successful negotiation. And the first of them, it says, don't be afraid to ask for what you want. When you go to a negotiation, don't be afraid to ask for what you want. If you don't ask, don't blame the other person for not giving you. If there's something you want from a negotiation, ask it. Don't be afraid. The worst anybody can do to you is tell you no, right? No. If they tell you no, so be it. At least you asked, right? Don't be afraid to ask for what you want, right? If they say no, at least you asked. They're not going to kill you because you asked. And if they kill you, that's their loss. But when you go into a negotiation, don't be afraid to ask for what you want, because if you don't ask, you cannot blame them for not giving you because you did not ask. The ancient wisdom is ask and you shall be given. So when you're in the room and there's something that you want, ask for it. The worst that can happen is they will say no. Even if they say no, at least they've heard you. Who knows, they might reconsider their stance. But if you never asked, you don't blame them if they don't give it to you because you did not ask, right? Ancient wisdom is ask and you shall be given. In a place where you're negotiating, that's why you need to do your own work. You need to ask yourself, what do I want? And if it's something you really want that will make a difference for you coming out of that negotiation, ask. Right? So successful negotiators are assertive and challenge everything. They know that everything is negotiable, right? This is negotiation consciousness. Everything is negotiable. It is what makes a difference between negotiators and everybody else, right? Acts, right? So when you go to meet a con and you're supposedly trying to negotiate, really they are trying to persuade you. Because you've not done your homework, you don't know what to even ask, right? But they are prepared and they're going to push everything at you all to get you to sign the dotted line, right? But even when such a thing catches you unawares, if there's something that is in your mind that's important to you, ask the question, right? Don't go regretting later on, right? So being assertive means asking for what you want and refusing to take no for an answer, right? Uh, well, using the word refusing to say no might not be the right word, but ask, right? It's up to you if it's something you can negotiate for, right? That's really what this is saying. If it's something that's negotiable, ask if there's something they can give you to replace that. It's up to you to consider it, right? But don't dig your foot in unnecessarily in a negotiation. You must know the things you're willing to give and the things you're not willing to give, right? If it's something you're willing to give, just make sure you get value for it. If it's something that you're not willing to give, then you can say don't take no for an answer, right? So there's a difference between being assertive and being aggressive. Just don't be aggressive, but be assertive. Say the way, say the way that say it, not as someone that doesn't mean it. At the same time, don't say it in a way that is offensive, right? So what here we're talking about is being assertive, not being aggressive, right? You are assertive when you take care of your own interest while maintaining respect for the interest of others, right? So we maintain respect for the interest of others, but we still say what we want, right? And challenge means not taking things at face value, all right? You have the right to question every and anything. You cannot negotiate unless you're willing to challenge the validity of the opposing position. So you need to challenge their validity, ask questions, get understanding, but don't be afraid to ask what you want. And don't be afraid to seek clarity, where clarity is needed, right? Also, when you're negotiating, another tip that works for successful negotiation is your listening skill, which again is the first law of the con man, right? Even though we're talking about negotiation here, you need to shut up and listen. Don't just talk. in a negotiation, it's more important for you to listen than for you to talk, because your talk is as effective as your listening. Because when you listen, then you know where to talk, what to talk to and what not to talk to. Because when you're talking, you might talk yourself out of a position, a good position, right? But if you're listening, you can talk yourself into a good position, right? Because you understand the other side, and you're able to then use what you understand to get what you want. Right. So it's important to listen. Right. Negotiating is not about talking, it's about listening. Because sometimes what you want, the opposing side is willing to give you without you even arguing about it. Something that they already brought to the table to give you, if only you listen to them. Right. So remember the first law of the Ten Commandments of a con man, which says, be patient, be a patient listener, right? Be a patient listener. It is this, not fast talking, that gets a con man his schools, right? Listen, because when you listen, you understand the other side. So negotiators are detectives. They ask probing questions and then shut up and listen. They ask probing questions to understand where the other side is standing and use what they understand to get, what they're looking for. So it's the same way, tying again with Sun Tzu's Art of War. It says to win in every war, which here we're talking about. The war here can be paralleled or analogous here to negotiation. You need not to not only know yourself, but also know your enemy or the other side, right? Enemy here is analogous to the other side of the table in a negotiation. You need to listen and understand them. When you understand them, then you can use what you understand, to get to solve the problem on the table, right? So follow the 70-30 rule. Listen 70% of the time, and talk only 30% of the time, right? If you listen 70% of the time and talk only 30% of the time, it will get you home, right? So the third tip, for having a successful negotiation is to do your homework. Just like we've talked about in the skill is doing preparation, right? If you do your homework, it will help you, to have a successful negotiation. That means you've checked the other side out. You know what they want, what they are looking for, who they are, what's important to them, what's not important to them, and you're then able to use that, as you negotiate. Right. So do your homework, gather as much pertinent information prior to negotiation. What are their needs? What pressure do they feel? What options do they have? The more information you have about the people with whom you are negotiating, the stronger you will the stronger you will be. The more information you have, the stronger you will be, because you know who they are and you're able to then speak based on what you know. So that's important to know the other side. Also, it's important to know yourself, because sometimes if you don't do your homework, you might just give away things that are important to you, right? You need to know the things you're willing to give and the things you're not willing to trade off, in the negotiation. You need to know your boundary conditions, right? So it's important to do your homework if you're going to win in a negotiation. The fourth tip here for winning in a negotiation is always be willing to walk away. Don't make it a do or die, right? If it's not suiting you, there's nothing wrong in walking away, right? It's either a win-win, no deal. Both of us walk away and we're still friends, right? It's that thing we say that either runs from a war, lives to fight another day. There's no use, roughing it, losing, you know, and when really you didn't have to give up, right? It's also no use roughing it off and damaging the relationship. It's always good to stop, in a friendly uh end, without needing to leave the altar to one another. That this comes to me from a relationship standpoint. There was a dear friend of mine, was a lawyer, and she told me, and we're pretty close. I spent a lot of time visiting her, and we spent time together. Uh, and when she did get engaged, she told me, and for me then she was I had a lot of friends like that, but she was open enough to let me know when she did get engaged. And for me, I just said, hey, you can marry all your friends, you know, and it was okay. And we ended on a good note, such that we could still be friends even after that. Some people end dirty, and it's like, me, these, or hide it from one another. There was another one, and I just said, hey, uh, we're still going to be friends, you know, and when we relate with people, we need to know the things we prize. Things don't have to end dirty. It doesn't have to be a lose-lose. You don't have to have a lose-lose in any relationship. We can agree to disagree. We can agree not to be friends anymore. We can agree to separate and give a distance, but you see that it's a win-win. Oh, no deal. We go our separate ways, without any bad blood. That's important. Bad blood comes when there's ego. One person is trying to outdo the other. One person is trying to oppress the other. Like I had a recent uh fracas with someone here in the office, and today the person sees me and is not greeting and all of that because the person just has an ego issue, is wanting a situation where she could insult me, and harass me, and I should just be subservient to that. Hey, man, that ain't gonna work with me. You should always be willing to work away, right? We are willing to walk away. It doesn't have to end in a lose-lose. It doesn't have to end in a lose-win. It doesn't have to end in a win-lose. Protect the relationship. Let's seek for a win-win, no deal, right? So never negotiate without options. Always have options. If you depend too much on the positive outcome of a negotiation, you lose your ability to say no, right? You lose your ability to say no if you depend too much on the outcome of a negotiation. And that's why everywhere you find yourself, you need to develop options, right? Joseph in Potiphar's house would seem like he didn't have options, right? But he he knew that he had options. He had options with God. There's never an excuse to do wrong, because irrespective of how tight things were. For Joseph, it was tight, he was a slave, but he prized his relationship with God more than his seeming position as a slave, and he chose to do right. Yeah, he got the punishment in the short term, but he got the elevation in the long term. Right. So this it's a it, it is visible to the other negotiator just as much as your readiness to walk away is. Right. Um, So whether you're ready to walk away, or you don't have options, the other negotiator they're going to use it against you if you don't have a boundary condition as to where to stop. So whether you're willing to walk away or not, there could be a strength or a weakness. If it's that you have no other option, then you're done for. The other negotiator will use it against you, right? So always have options. That's important when you go into a negotiation.